Hello and welcome back to the channel today. My name is Andy and we're back with another race review from the 2019 Formula 1 season, and it was, for most people, the home of Formula 1. It was Silverstone. It was the venue of the first ever Grand Prix in 1950 for the World Championship. It was, of course, the British Grand Prix. Just quickly though, before we get into the action from the weekend, because there was plenty to get stuck into, if you do enjoy these race reviews, please let me know in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and do hit the like button as well. I'd really appreciate any support that comes along with this. I'm doing my own kind of thing, my own style of doing these race reviews. I hope you enjoy them, and show me the support to show me that you are enjoying them. Would be absolutely fantastic. Getting straight into it though, because there is plenty to get on with, and I'm going to start with the elephant in the room: Rich Energy. Oh my god, I am literally sitting here with my head in my hands, because this is the gift that keeps on giving for all the wrong reasons. I feel so sorry for Gunther Steiner, Gene Haas, Kevin Magnussen, Romain Grosjean, the whole Haas team, because to me this whole sorry saga is all because the CEO Williams story of Rich Energy. So in the lead up to the Grand Prix, Rich Energy's Twitter account tweeted out, "We have terminated our contract with Haas at F1 due to poor performance." They even tagged Red Bull, and they even then went on to tag Williams, saying it is unacceptable to be beaten by Williams. So they're citing poor performance. Haas were like, no, we've got a contract for X amount of years, so it's business as usual. We'll let the lawyers and the legal team sort it. And then other tweets came out, which was letters from the lawyers themselves. The Rich Energy account was still tweeting out. One even said, "We put up a £35 million guarantee," but when you read the letter, it's actually Haas claiming damages for the £35 million they would have been due over the 3 or 4 year period or whatever it was. It's just an absolute joke. And pardon my language, but the quicker Williams' story can fuck off from Rich Energy, the better that company will be. And if he can't disappear from that company, the quicker Rich Energy disappear, the quicker Haas can get on with things. On the other energy drink front, Red Bull done a tie-in with 007 with a new James Bond movie coming up very shortly. Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris were confirmed for McLaren for 2020, and we've seen the 40th anniversary of Williams' first ever Grand Prix victory, which was at Silverstone, Clay Regazzoni in 1979, and 50 years of Frank Williams being a team boss, going back to Frank Williams Cars Limited, and then obviously what we know now as Williams Racing as well. So plenty of celebrations. The biggest celebration of all, and I'm so fucking delighted at it. New contract for Silverstone for at least 5 more years, taking us up to 2024. So you might remember a couple of years ago, and I even actually wrote an article about this back when I was writing for LTM, which is now Torque Press, and you can follow them on Twitter. I still tweet some of their stuff out. I wrote about Silverstone activating the release clause, which would mean that this year's race would have been the final race if a new agreement wasn't decided. The reason they'd done that was due to the costs of running the event. It was getting higher and higher every year. The agreement was made by Bernie Ecclestone, who we all know is good for getting his hands on a lot of money. But a new deal has been reached. It's a minimum of 5 years, which is fantastic news. It's a track that the fans love, it's a track that the drivers love, and it gives us some great racing. And for British fans, it is fantastic that it is still on the calendar. Moving into the action itself, I'm going to quickly go over practice and qualifying very quickly, rather than what more in depth. So FP1, it was Gasly on top. In quite a disrupted session, there was a red flag with Raikkonen stopping on the track. There was a little bit of light rain in the air as well. It was Gasly though getting a very much needed confidence boost, topping the standings. Many drivers spun, including a weird one from Romain Grosjean. When he left pit lane, he spun as he took the limiter off and hit the barrier, broke his front wing off, and then had to drive a full lap because he had exited pit lane. It was just the Haas coming bad to worse, basically. FP2, it was Bottas heading the Mercedes 1-2. Ricciardo stopped on track with a power unit issue, but he would receive no grid penalties because it was an older practice engine they were using, and they were going to switch it back to the race unit for Saturday anyway. And then into Saturday, FP3, it was Leclerc on top, narrowly, in a Ferrari 1-2, Hamilton P3, the top three covered by less than 5/100ths of a second. A little bit of rain during the session as well, which meant for a good chunk of the session, George Russell was the fastest car out on track, so Williams getting a bit of a much needed boost, even though it didn't last for very much long. Into qualifying itself, and well, predictably, both the Williams were out. Russell ahead of Kubica again, that's 9-0. In the qualifying for them. Stroll out again, 14 Q1s in a row. Not really much of a surprise nowadays, let's be honest. Kevin Magnussen knocked out as well, and Daniel Kvyat also out in Q1. Kvyat had a poor last lap, and Magnussen, having been P5 in Austria, struggling. Haas not enjoying it. Q2 was Giovinazzi, who was out in P11, just ahead of his teammate Raikkonen, so out qualifying Raikkonen once again. I think that's 3 races in a row now for the Italian. Carlos Sainz struggled in the session, which was a shame for him. Grosjean and Perez also out of the race. And then in Q3, the slimmest of slim margins, you could probably put a Rizla paper between them. Bottas on pole by 6/1000ths of a second from Hamilton. It was Leclerc in P3. It looked like he was on for it. He was up in the sectors 1 and 2 and messed it all up in Q3. I was watching it on the phone, and I was like, this is going to be a 24. This is going to be a 1 minute 24.9, and he missed out and ended up in P3. You'd have been annoyed at that, I'm sure. It was Verstappen P4, Gasly P5, Vettel rounded out the top 6. Horrible session for a Ferrari driver and the 4-time champ. Then it was Ricciardo best of the rest with Norris, Albon and Hulkenberg rounding out the top 10. Now, in the build-up to the race, on the grid, Red Bull were working on both rear wings on both Verstappen and Gasly's cars. It turned out they had found a crack in the end plate in Parc Fermé. Had to get special dispensation to change it, which was accepted. They were working and fixing the rear wings of those cars on the grid all the way up until 1 minute to go. Really cutting it fine, but they managed to get both of them fixed and they held out just fine. On to the start itself, and the start was done by Justin Whiting. Obviously, Justin is one of Charlie Whiting's sons. Obviously, we lost Charlie Whiting, the FIA race director, just before the first round in Australia this year. And it was a lovely touch from the FIA getting his son Justin up. He pressed the buttons to start the sequence and to turn the red lights off. Absolutely fantastic stuff, I think, from the FIA. And they had a memorial for Charlie Whiting in the lead up to the race, and if you haven't seen it already, go and watch Sebastian Vettel's memorial poem for Charlie. It's a touching moment. Talks about how it's chasing time and stuff like that, and it was really it was a really nice piece, and go and listen to that and try not to have a bit of emotion in your eye. If you're not, as Ted Kravitz says in his notebook, you've got no soul and no heart, because it really was a touching moment. But when they did leave the line, Bottas held P1 through the first couple of turns. Vettel got a good start, jumped Gasly into P5. Hamilton was attacking Bottas into Brooklands, but he couldn't get by. Norris passing Ricciardo into Cops, the two of them side by side, fantastic stuff. And then he held it through the first part into Maggots and Beckett's and took over the position from Ricciardo. So that was great stuff there from Norris to move up to 7th. Very early doors. Out into the Wellington Straight though, and it got from bad to absolutely abysmal for Haas. Magnussen and Grosjean crashed into each other again. Wheel-to-wheel contact. Problem was it caused both rear wheels, so it was the rear right on Grosjean and the rear left on Magnussen to puncture. Just couldn't make it up. Günther Steiner probably completely filled up his swear box after that one. Yeah, not good at all. They would retire pretty early doors. I'll come on to that in a moment. we've seen in the early laps, so Hamilton was harrying Bottas. He was really pushing him. He seemed to have more comfort in the car in the early stages. And in lap 4, he tried to go around the outside into Brooklands, then cut back for it was then the outside of Luffield, and took the lead from Bottas. And you could not visibly, that's the wrong word. You could hear the roar from the crowd as Hamilton went through, but Bottas turned the engine up into cop side by side with his teammate and took the lead back. It was a brilliant move from the Finn, and it was just absolutely fantastic stuff. So Bottas still leading at this point. We started seeing the replays from the start. Norris was attacking Gasly in lap 1 as well. He had initially got ahead of Ricciardo and then dropped back. There was contact. It was front left wheel to right side pod of Gasly into the village section, the loop. Sainz got a great launch as well, jumped both of the Alphas and made up 2 places even before he got to T1. It's really going to help his race. On to lap 8, we're seeing attempts at moves from all the way through the field, but not much going on at this point. Magnussen retired, something was loose in the car, and then Grosjean retired on lap 11. Terrible day for Haas. Verstappen was onto the back of Leclerc on lap 8, but he couldn't get close enough down the Hanger straight. Definitely battling coming between day 2, and oh boy was it. He tried again at Stowe in lap 10, still couldn't get by. Leclerc was struggling with softs compared to the mediums on the Red Bull. Verstappen went up the inside into the loop, but he ran wide. Leclerc back through. Vettel then tried to go by on Verstappen as well down into Brooklands, as the Red Bull had to go from attack to defence, but he managed to hold on and it stayed status quo with Leclerc in P3, with Verstappen P4 and Vettel P5. And the next lap though, in lap 12, Gasly up the inside of Vettel for P5. A lovely little move into the loop section. Vettel tried to go repass him into Brooklands, but Gasly held on, but then pitted at the end of the lap. And it was a strange one. It was Red Bull obviously pushing the strategy because they were on the medium tyres. It was a very early stop on the mediums. He rejoined in P10 on a set of hard tyres. Ricciardo also pitted on that same lap, end of lap 12. He rejoined P15 trying to undercut Norris, because Norris had managed to keep the Renault at bay at this point. End of lap 13, start of lap 14, both Leclerc and Verstappen pitted. Medium tyres for both, so Verstappen committing to a 2-stopper. The Red Bull mechanics doing just enough to get their man out ahead, out of pit lane. They were side by side down pit lane. The stewards did not do an unsafe release, which was fantastic stuff. Even though the McLaren mechanics, had to breathe in a little bit because it got that close. But coming up the hill into the loop, Verstappen just had no grip, ran wide, and Leclerc went, "Thank you very much," and retook the place. And that was it, game back on one more time. That was P4 and P5. They were clear as signs. Norris had pitted as well and rejoined behind Ricciardo, which was now P12 for Norris, P11 for Ricciardo. On to lap 16, and it's Verstappen and Leclerc close together again. Bottas pits from P1, another set of medium, so he's committing to 2 stops as well, rejoining P3. Verstappen was trying again into Brooklands, but Leclerc was some fantastic defensive driving, placing the car really well, and he done again into Stowe corner one more time, and then it took a few laps. Verstappen got a mega run down the inside into Stowe. Leclerc defended it. The reactions to Leclerc, he was looking in the mirror. Verstappen moves, and when less than the blink of an eye, Leclerc poof, straight there, making the move that he needs to make. Pushed the Red Bull right to the white line. Verstappen gave him space in the way back though, and Leclerc just went right around the outside of Stowe and held on to the position, held on to P4, and then at lap 20, Giovinazzi spins at the club chicane, gets into the gravel. Yes, there is still gravel traps at some tracks, and was stuck. Safety car deployed, and it could not have gone well or better for Hamilton. Hamilton had stayed out long on those medium tyres, and this gave him a free pit stop, and he came in, put the hard tyres on, rejoined, still in the lead of the race. How's your luck basically. Could not have been any better. Vettel also pitted at this point. It helped him too. He jumped up and stayed into P3 because of it. Verstappen decided to come in and make a second stop, get off the mediums and go into the hard tyres, redrowning in P6. So that, because obviously he committed to 2 stops anyway, you might as well take this cheap pit stop while the safety car is out. Sainz and Ricciardo pitted, so Ricciardo done his second stop. Sainz only needed 1 stop. This is the only stop. The safety car worked well for him. Bottas, Leclerc, Gasly, Norris and Albon all stayed out. Leclerc pitted the next lap. Ferrari off the ball again on strategy. Leclerc rejoins in P6, but he's now on the hard tyres, which should get him to the end of the race. It restarted in lap 24. Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel P3, then it was Gasly, Verstappen, Leclerc rounding out the top 6. Sainz, Norris, Albon and Hulkenberg rounding out the top 10, but Bottas in the worst position in the world, having to pit again. They did not take the cheap stop with the fin because it would have dropped him behind the 2 Red Bulls and the 2 Ferraris, so they kept him out in the hope they'd be able to build up a lead, but it basically ruined Bottas's chances of winning this race. And then at the restart, Verstappen nearly went into the back of Gasly as they restarted coming into the club chicane before they'd even crossed the line and got the green flag proper. Ricciardo got by Hulkenberg. Perez then tried to go up the inside of Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg came back across to the racing line. This is into Brooklands on the restart lap 24, and contact between the rear wheel of Hulkenberg. Surprised they didn't get a puncture because it took off the front wing of the Racing Point. Perez dropping down the field. Verstappen held off Leclerc into Copse, and the Mercedes, by the time the end of lap 1 of the restart, were already nearly 3 seconds clear. They just shot off and gone, cheers, see you later, and they disappeared and checked out. We've seen Leclerc try to go around the outside of Verstappen into club, banging wheels between the two of them. Verstappen held the position though. These two had a great battle all race. It was absolutely phenomenal to watch. We've seen Ricciardo go around the outside of Albon into Brooklands as well, which was a lovely move by the Aussie. And at this point, we're only just beyond halfway distance. There's still plenty of the race to go here. Lap 27, Verstappen passes Gasly into Stowe under DRS out by team orders. The Mercs are now 5 seconds clear up the road, with Bottas still needing to make that pit stop. Lap 29, Leclerc's now onto the back of Gasly, has a look into Stowe but backs out of it. Ricciardo's on the back of Norris again, who again didn't pit under the safety car. The team thinking the mediums won't last, meaning he would have to pit again later on. And then in the early 30s, I felt like calmed down a little bit. You know, we've seen Verstappen was slowly catching up to Vettel. Leclerc was still behind Gasly. Ricciardo was still fighting with Norris. There was battles going on, but there was not much of an actual full-on attempts to do anything. Verstappen got within DRS on Vettel on lap 34, and then 2 laps later, we get a radio message about a weird noise from Verstappen he heard going through turn 7. But nothing happened, it was all good. Leclerc made a fantastic move into Village, the loop section, around the outside of Gasly, and holds it through the next section, and down to Brooklands, held the line. It was a fantastic move, so much later in the brakes. It was absolutely brilliant stuff from the Monegasque driver. And it was just, another example of what you can do with the right track. Verstappen is then told that everyone's fine, he can attack, and he goes round the outside of Vettel into Stowe. And this is lap 37. He made the move, like a hell of a run down the hanger straight with the DRS. Went to the outside, probably went a bit too deep, ran 4 wheels just off the track on the curb, and Vettel got a great run, and then into club. Max held the inside line, and like Baku, between him and Ricciardo, Vettel locked up into the back of the Red Bull. It's the picture you see on your screen. It's a fantastic shot. And a Ferrari facing the wrong way, the Red Bull going backwards, having been all 4 wheels off the ground, over the sausage curb, both into the gravel, both managed to keep going, both of them basically asking on the radio, what the hell was he doing? It was Vettel's fault. He made a mistake. He admitted it after the race as well. He just locked up being too close. He tried to cut back to the right hand side, but he just missed his braking point. Rammed into the back of the Red Bull. The Red Bull surprisingly strong at the back, no damage at all. Vettel had to limp back with a broken front wing. Didn't look too bad, but it was obviously bad enough. He had to come back through, maybe a puncture as well, who knows. And yeah, I mean, some people are saying Verstappen moved late under braking, but if you watch his onboard, he's got a slight, tiny touch of left-hand lock going to the left-hand side the whole time. He does not deviate that in any way at all. So Vettel is completely at fault there for that incident. But that allowed Leclerc and Gasly through into P3 and P4, Verstappen now P5. Vettel made it back to pit lane. It was under investigation by the stewards. He got a 10-second time penalty for it, and he ended up with 2 points on his licence as well by the end of it. So, horrible, horrible race for the German one more time. During all of that, Norris had pitted, having been left out to dry with a safety car. He was now P13. Vettel was P17 and a lap down, last car on track. Ricciardo is now on the back of Sainz for P6. This is now on lap 42. Everything kind of going on as we watch replays of the Red Bull and the Ferrari. And what I loved about the incident actually as well, and I know it's not nice to say love, but the audible gasps from the crowd was absolutely brilliant. I loved hearing that. Just how much the crowd at Silverstone has invested in the race was brilliant. Verstappen and Vettel stuff meant Bottas was now a pit stop clear of Leclerc in P3. It was just what the Finn needed, and he would come in soon enough to make his pit stop, but not before we see Hulkenberg going slow onto Hangar Straight. Now, I thought he had ran wide coming through Maggots, Beckett's and onto the chapel, but no. What had happened was he'd been told by this team to slow down because they felt his engine was going to go pop, but it was actually a faulty sensor, and there was nothing wrong with the car at all. So he slowed down and lost a few places for absolutely nothing. So, yeah, there you go. Weird. Lap 44, it's also heard on the radio Hamilton being told box, free pit stop, just being safe, set of tyres, no problems at all. He ignored them, he stayed out. He didn't want to come in. So they pitted Bottas on lap 46, he put on the soft tyres, he stayed in P2. They again asked Hamilton the following lap, but again Hamilton stayed out, and then they just left it at that for the end of the race. Ricciardo still looking onto the back of Sainz for P6, but he just couldn't get the move done at all by the end, and it was brilliant racing from Sainz. Bottas set the fastest lap, then, and for anyone who hates Hamilton, right, and I know there's a lot of yous, but what Hamilton done on the last lap is just, it shows you how good a driver he is. So he's on 32 lap old tyres. He put them on lap 20. Yes, he's had a couple of laps under safety car to help. On the final lap of the race on those old tyres, Hamilton sets the fastest lap of the bloody race. On the final lap on old tyres, his teammate in the same car with tyres that are only about 5 laps old on the softest compound couldn't beat it. Had set it, and Hamilton beat it on older hard tyres. It's just unbelievable stuff. But it was Hamilton who won. It's his 6th victory at the British Grand Prix, meaning he is now the all-time leader for victories at the British Grand Prix. He was tied with Jimmy Clark and Alain Prost up until yesterday. He now leads on his own. Lost pole by the slimmest of margins, past Bottas before Bottas repassed him with that fantastic little bit of scrap between them early doors. Stayed out long, the safety car fell at the perfect time, and as I say, that fastest lap on the final lap was just absolute stellar. Hamilton being Hamilton, is the best way you can put it. He's going to break that record of Schumacher's 91 victories probably by the start of next season, but there you go, we'll come to that when it comes. Bottas, it was a brilliant pole position. It looked like it was Bottas 2.0 again, and especially in the early stages when he got passed by Hamilton and then flew up the inside into Cops was brilliant. He got screwed by the safety car, came out like 3 laps after he pitted, and they didn't pit him again till later on. He got lucky with all the incidents behind him, meaning he then ended up with a free pit stop, but yeah, what could have been for Valtteri? You know, it's a shame, but things happen. Leclerc on the podium again, that's his 4th in a row. Great battle with Verstappen, some fantastic stuff, great defensive driving as well. Put a great move on Gasly. The podium this time was more due to luck because of what happened between his teammate Vettel and Verstappen, but you know what, it's still a very, very good run again from the Monegasque driver, and he's now at the point where you've got to wonder, what is Vettel's mindset? He's got his young up-and-comer who's now beating them race by race. quite consistently. That's going to be a worry if you're the German four-time champ. He's only just turned 32, Sebastian. So a few years left, but they've done some changes to the car as well. So the car in the early stages of the year was understeering. They've made some changes to eliminate the understeer, but it's suiting Leclerc much better than it is Vettel. Vettel does not like a tail-happy car, and the changes to eliminate the understeer made it a bit more tail-happy. Charles is happy with that setup. That's what's making the difference. How did they fix that? Got an upgrade coming for Hungary. Next race is Germany, and then Hungary before the summer break. Will that be the fix he needs? Who knows? P4 was Gasly, best result of the season. His best weekend so far. He needs more of these as well to be able to keep that seat at Red Bull. Leclerc's move on him though was supreme. There wasn't much Gasly could have done. It was so opportunistic and late in the brakes from the Ferrari driver, but solid result from Gasly. Much more like it. Still needs to find a wee bit more pace so to keep up with his teammate Max, because that's who he's judged off of. P5 Verstappen was again the man on the moves. That scrap with Leclerc, as I've said, was fantastic. So many highlights from that. Just go watch it back. It was brilliant. He got Vettel and then got punted. Recovery meant he did finish P5. Still solid points. He should have been on the podium. Nope. He should have been on the podium. And if that incident hadn't happened, Bottas doesn't have the pit stop advantage. And therefore, that could have been P2 for Max. So, what could have been, eh? Sainz best of the rest. Another quiet race from the Spaniard, but it was a brilliant drive from down the grid after going out in Q2. 2 places at the start helped him along. The safety car fell opportunistically for him as well. Held off Ricciardo towards the end, but brilliant stuff. Best of the rest. McLaren looking strong again. Ricciardo, it was a great battle for him with Norris early doors. He jumped him when pitting early, pitted again under the safety car, and although he caught up to Sainz, he just couldn't get past him. But I'm sure the Aussie will be happy with solid points for Renault, having them struggled last time out in Austria a little bit. Raikkonen was P8, didn't see much of the Finn. Solid points despite a poor start. There's not really much to say, it's just Raikkonen doing Raikkonen things, being solid. Kvyat 2 stopped in P9, helped by the safety car himself as well. Couldn't catch Raikkonen, but 2 more points for the Toro Rosso team in the Russian. You're going to be happy with that. And Hülkenberg stole the last point, so obviously qualified 10th, dropped back, felt his way through the field. Got the slowdown because of the dodgy sensor. It probably would have been about P8, maybe P9. But managed to get by Albon with a couple of laps to go to regain the final point. Norris P11, he had a great start and a great battle with Ricciardo. Got undercut, safety car ruined his race. I think Norris would have been in the points if it hadn't been for the safety car. But it's another solid weekend from the teenager, and well deserved being re-signed up for next year. Albon, now this is a strange one for the Thai Brit driver. He only one stopped. That cost him points because he was in 10th up until 2 laps to go. But they couldn't stop him again because of an issue with the battery. It meant the car was live. And if they had came into the pits and made the stop, it would have electrocuted the mechanics. Really, really weird. They were on the grid, they had the marigolds on as well. There were certain points of the race where it wasn't an issue. That's when they'd made the first pit stop. But they couldn't find a point later in the race to do it, so he really lost out. But you know what? Good result when you think of it. I'm sure they'll want to figure out what caused that high voltage though to avoid that happening again. Stroll was P13. Another Q1 exit for the Canadian. As I say, it's 14 in a row. He was closing at the end, but it's an average race from Stroll. Nothing exciting. Didn't do much more, probably were expected. Russell P14. P14 for Russell in the Williams. Highest finish of the year. He's now 9-0 in qualifying. I think he might even be 9-0 or 8-1 in race victories as well against his teammate Kubica. Best result for him. 1 stop, done well again. He needs a better car. He really, really does. He's a good driver. He's showing the best he can. Kubica was behind him in P15. Beaten by Russell again. His best result of the season, but in the inter-team battle with Russell, he is losing badly. Vettel P16. He got a good start. Got jumped by Gasly. He jumped Gasly at the start. Was running P3, which was helped by the safety car when Verstappen caught up and passed him, and then caused that crash by running into the back of him. Got a 10-second penalty, totally his fault. 2 points on his licence as well. And again, I've seen it on Twitter, many people going, oh no, he's doing too much, he needs to retire. Shut up. Yeah, he's making too many mistakes, I will admit to that, but he's still got years in him, he's still quick, he's still a good driver. Get a rest. But he does need to pick up his performances, because Leclerc's looking pretty good now, and now he's comfortable in that Ferrari. I've said it from end of last season and this season, Leclerc will win a race for Ferrari, I think, before Sebastian does. There you go. Perez was the last runner. He was affected by the safety car, which didn't help him at all, and then obviously contact with Hulkenberg, lost his front wing. He ended up doing 3 stops by the end. Last runner. Frustrating. He felt he could have been in the points. He was certainly a bit quicker than his teammate, but we'll never know. Giovinazzi outqualified Raikkonen again, seems to be getting a grip of things. Spun out, that caused the safety car in lap 20. However, the team thinks something broke. I've not been able to find any details as to what in any news articles, so unsure what caused that. You'll be hoping for better luck in Germany. Grosjean and Magnussen 19th and 20th retired early doors. Horrible weekend all round for Haas. Team factory is based in Banbury, not too far away from Silverstone if I remember correctly. The Rich Energy saga is just ridiculous, it's embarrassing, it's just stupid, and then they go and crash into each other on the first lap. Punctures to both of them, both retire. Grosjean lost downforce, lost bits of the floor, and Magnussen felt something loose at the back of the car, so instead of it, they were already a lap down by the end of lap 3, not going to catch up, so they retired the cars. What it all means is Hamilton's on 223 points, Bottas on 184, Verstappen on 136, Vettel 123, Leclerc's only a 3 behind Sebastian now on 120, Gasly on 55, Sainz best of the rest on 38, Raikkonen on 25, and Norris and Ricciardo tied on 22 points apiece in P9. Mercedes now over 400 points already, 407 points to Ferrari's 243, Red Bull on 191, McLaren on 60, Renault 39, Alpha 26, Racing Point and Toro Rosso 19, tied for 7th, Haas in 9th on 16th, and Williams still on nil points, which will still be the same when it comes to Abu Dhabi. Next race up is the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim. We've got 2 races back to back. We've got the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim and then the Hungarian Grand Prix at the Hungaroring. That's what I was trying to say, wrong way around. The week after, and then we've got the 3-week summer break. Do join me for those. As always, thank you very much for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, tell me your thoughts on what has been a fantastic British Grand Prix. My name is Andy. Until next time, I'll see you again soon. Ta-da.